Top 15 Most Anticipated Movies of 2017. Choose life. Choose a job. Choose to make a belated sequel to TRAINSPOTTING, which catches up with the original cast. Ewan McGregor, Johnny Lee Miller, Robert Carlyle, and Ewan Bremner, 20 years on. Much has changed since director Danny Boyle and his cast took on Irvine Welsh's novel. But while Renton and his friends are slightly less drug-addled than they were in the 90s, their lives are still as messy as ever, thanks in no small part to Begbie, who's fresh out of prison and still a complete sociopath. Anyone who's read Welsh's porno, the basis for TRAINSPOTTING 2, will know we're in for a wild ride here. Is everything still awesome? Warner Brothers has plans for several LEGO features, with Ninjago also due later in 2017. But it's the return of Will Arnett's wonderfully wry Dark Knight that's got us the most excited. The plot will have Bruce Wayne fighting villains while raising Robin at the same time. Early signs are showing that it's going to tap into the tongue-in-cheek fun that turned the LEGO movie into such a treat. Where there's franchise potential, there's a would-be blockbuster waiting to happen. So in March 2017, the big guy returns with Kong, Skull Island. Directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts and starring Tom Riddleson, Brie Larson, and Samuel L. Jackson, this 70-set trip into the Kong mythos gives viewers the biggest version of the character they've ever seen, which is a good thing for Kong because after Skull Island finishes its theatrical run, Legendary is planning to pit him against Godzilla in a monster mashup for the ages. Overshadowed though it is by the controversy surrounding its casting, Ghost in the Shell has some rich storytelling to draw from. Based on Masamune Shiro's manga series, and leaning heavily on the 1995 anime classic by director Mamoru Oshii, it's a cyberpunk fable about the migration of souls to machines, and what that might mean for the future of humanity. Director Rupert Sanders said there'll be more action in this movie than in the more philosophical anime movies and series, but from the snippets of footage we've seen so far, Ghost in the Shell appears to be remaining true to the spirit of the original stories. Scarlett Johansson, Takeshi Kitano, and Juliette Binoche lead a sterling international cast. As well as the key returnees, writer-director James Gunn and actors Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Vin Diesel, and Bradley Cooper, there's a sizable new signing in the form of Kurt Russell. He's believed to be playing Star-Lord's father, and that's part of the story that's set to underpin the new movie. With talk already ongoing about a Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the cosmic adventures of Marvel characters are set to continue long after this one. After being introduced to audiences in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman will get her own standalone feature, which is set to fill in the origin story of Diana Prince and explore how she became Wonder Woman in the first place. Director Patty Jenkins is at the helm, with a screenplay from the writer Jason Fuchs. In spite of the fact that the Transformers motion pictures have not been applauded critically, these movies are rapidly gaining immense popularity amongst movie buffs all over the world. The latest sequel, The Last Knight, is almost here, and it'll bring the Transformers franchise back to life. Michael Bay is giving us a new movie and a new story, and a pretty unknown plot. There are rumors that the movie will feature this time both magic and time travel. Mark Wahlberg, Stanley Tucci, and most of the previous Transformers cast will reprise their roles. Then there are the robots, of course. Not only the Autobots and the Decepticons, but the Dinobots and Combaticons as well. The big question is whether this new web-slinger movie, the first collaboration between Marvel and Sony, and the big-budget debut of the director John Watts, can succeed where the most recent Spider-Man movies faltered. Our hope? That Homecoming avoids the mistakes of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which heaped its basket with so many villains and plot lines that it often felt more like a series of trailers than a coherent movie. The word that Homecoming will be as much a high school comedy drama as a superhero flick is a great sign though, and with Michael Keaton starring as the feathered nemesis Vulture, this could well prove to be the return to form Spider-Man deserves. Director Matt Reeves has set himself a high bar with War for the Planet of the Apes, which follows ape leader Caesar and his comrades in an intensifying conflict with an army of humans. With much of the same cast and crew from the previous film returning, we're cautiously confident that this will be one of the smartest, most emotionally satisfying movies of 2017. Dunkirk sees Nolan step completely away from the sci-fi or the fantasy realm for the first time since Insomnia to tell the story of one of the most extraordinary military moments of World War II. The film reunites Nolan with a pair of his Dark Knight and Inception alums, Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy. The teaser suggests exactly the kind of meticulous widescreen imagery we've come to expect, and the massive main cast suggests a sprawling epic, something that certainly stands out from the rest of the summer crowd. A full 20 years after he made the eye-popping sci-fi film The Fifth Element, French director Luc Besson is returning to similar territory with Valerian, based on the comic series of the same name. It stars Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne as special agents who carry out missions through space and time, and their travels take in gigantic cities and exotic aliens. With a starry supporting cast and a huge budget, Valerian could be a triumph or, Lord forbid, a huge disappointment. It's that very sense of the unknown that leaves us so intrigued by Valerian. We can't wait! We have to admit, one of the things we loved about Blade Runner is that it stood all by itself, unsullied by sequels, prequels, or remakes. But if the laws of Hollywood economics dictate that a sequel has to happen, then at least we can rest assured that it's in the hands of a great director. It's a daunting task to say the least, but director Denis Villeneuve has a few big things going for him. The presence of Ridley Scott, who's producing, and Harrison Ford reprising his role as Rick Deckard. Ford's joined by the ensemble cast, rounded out by Ryan Gosling, Robin Wright, and Jared Leto, all working from a script co-written by the Blade Runner writer Hampton Fancher with Michael Green. In the Norse mythology, Ragnarok is an apocalyptic series of events that results in the world being plunged into water after the deaths of several gods, including Odin, Thor, and Loki, and culminates in a planetary rebirth. All we need to hear is those sentences above, and we're already looking forward to the new Thor movie. Whatever happens here, Chris Hemsworth will be joined by Mark Ruffalo, reprising his Marvel Universe role as Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and working under the direction of New Zealand filmmaker Taika Waititi. The pressure's on now, Zach. Following the middling responses to DC's two big movies of 2016, this is a movie where director Zack Snyder really needs to deliver. It's the one that brings together Batman, Superman, Aquaman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and more, and Snyder has already been making noises that lessons have been learned from the relentless darkness of his Batman vs. Superman movie. Originally set up as the first of two movies, Justice League Part 2 has disappeared off the schedules, leaving this one to pick up the threads left behind from the DC movies to date and provide a springboard for what's being called the DC Extended Universe. Warner Brothers needs this one to work, and it'd be fair to say there's plenty riding on it. At present, we know little of where the follow-up to The Force Awakens will go, other than it stars much of the previous film's cast, including Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Mark Hamill, while various interviews with those returning actors have hinted at a darker direction for the story. In many aspects, Rian Johnson has a tough task ahead of him with Episode 8. The Force Awakens relied heavily on resurrecting the icons from the original trilogy, but its sequel arguably needs to move things forward if this new series of movies is going to develop its own distinctive voice. Honorable mentions: John Wick, Chapter 2. Logan. Alien Covenant. Despicable Me 3. The Dark Tower. Baby Driver. Do you agree with our picks? Which films are you counting down the days for? Be sure to subscribe to watch our latest videos. See you next time!